Hi YouTube friends, it's me, and I'm making another video. When I started this video series, the idea was that I kind of wanted to do like a video diary of what I'm going through and what I'm feeling and how I'm processing everything and the ups and the downs, and I kind of wanted to do sort of like a video a day every day that I had something to talk about, that something was going on. And the past couple days, things have been going on, and I haven't made a video. If I'm being completely honest, I'm struggling. I'm kind of having a hard time. And I don't really know why. But my hope is that by talking things out and getting my thoughts out of my head and having to organize them in a conversational way, that I will have a better sense of what's going on and why I feel the way that I do. And so here I am. Again, I'm thrilled about this diagnosis. I am thrilled to know that all the weird things that drive me crazy about myself, it's just my brain's programming. It's just the way that my brain is set up to work. And that's okay. There's not anything wrong with me. I don't consider being neurodivergent something being wrong with me. I have too many people in my life that are also neurodivergent, that are doing great and are amazing people. Like, that's not. It's a challenge for sure, but it's just a different way of going through life, and I know that. And I am completely okay with this diagnosis. But for the past couple of days, I have really struggled. And work was really, really hard this week. Now, thankfully, Thursdays are therapy day, and I had my therapy session, and it went well, and I talked about some of the stuff that's going on, and that helped. But I am still struggling. And I've thought about it for the past couple of days, because it's been a real week. I told you guys before that I work at a tax accounting firm, and we're in tax season, and we're less than 3 weeks from tax day. And knock on wood, I'm going to get through this. Today was a good day at work. Yesterday wasn't a bad day at work. Tuesday was not a great day. It actually started Monday night. I started getting like this knot in my stomach, this like low level anxiety that was just humming through me. And then Monday night, I did not sleep very well. Again, as per usual. And I got up for work Tuesday morning, and my alarm went off. I woke up. I burst into tears. And, God, I can't even hold my camera steady. I'm sorry. And I got to work. I have to walk like 4.5 blocks to work. And I got settled in and I started doing work. And as the day progressed, I just kept getting more stressed and anxious. And I took my anxiety medication. I took a pill. It didn't really help. I took a second pill. It didn't really help. And now I'm capped out for the next 8 hours. I did all of the coping mechanisms and strategies that my therapist has taught me. I tried to reframe what was going on in my head, and I tried to analyze where these feelings were coming from, and I did all the things and nothing helped. And then shortly after lunch, I went into a full-blown panic attack. And I am so thankful that I have amazing, supportive coworkers, and one of them in particular, who told me, go. Take whatever time you need and go. And, you're not okay. So it's all right, go. And so I went. I left the office. I made it to our stairwell, and then I couldn't move any further. And so I went to the bottom of our stairwell, which ends in, I guess it's a little storage room or something. There's nothing down there at the very bottom level. And I just sat on the steps, and I shook, and I hyperventilated, and I freaked the living hell out. I don't know where this is coming from. This is not even the most challenging thing that I've had to deal with. Past couple of years have been really hard. And it pretty much started with the divorce. But it's just been one thing after another since then that has just been hammering me. And I think a large part of it is I'm just that exhausted. I am at like peak exhaustion right now. I don't have the emotional resilience to bounce back from things very easily anymore. I feel like I've been worn down by the past couple of years. And so it feels like the slightest little thing, good or bad, that happens to me just sends me right off my orbit for like 3 days. See, back when I started this channel, and when I was posting to it really regularly, but especially when I started the channel, I did so because my life was really stagnant at that point. And my then husband was working way too much and was hardly ever home. It was just me and Domino. I was working way too much myself. But then I was home by myself all night. And because of the insomnia, I'm usually up until stupid o'clock. And I needed something to do. And I guess I found a new hyperfixation with my YouTube channel. But at the time, I was going through another big change because I was finally getting to a point where I accepted the AB part of me being ABDL. And I have talked about this before on this channel in a video a while back. But the short version is that for the better part of my life, I hid behind being a DL. Because then I could just say that, oh, I have a weird kink. Oh, everybody has a weird kink. That's not weird. And the thought of the AB stuff really made me uncomfortable. Not when other people were enjoying it. That was fine. It was just me. And I had finally kind of worked through a lot of my baggage and figured myself out. And as I was going through that process, much like this one, I decided that I wanted to document it. And I thought, well, maybe there will be somebody out there who will watch my videos and think, I recognize that. I feel that way too sometimes, and maybe it would help. And so I decided to journal everything, and it turned into my YouTube channel. And hell, I wasn't far off from being able to monetize. I don't think I would have, but Like, I built up a reasonable audience, and I was making regular videos because it was something to do as an outlet. And I needed an outlet really bad because I was so stuck and bored. And I'm learning that my brain doesn't like being bored. Being bored is the worst thing that can happen to my brain. And so I turned to YouTube and I started talking all this stuff out. And it helped because I was stuck in a very static place in my life. And I'm starting to wonder if the change from so much stability to the point of ridiculousness to all of this happening this last couple of years, going from 0 to 60 so quickly, I kind of feel like I have some sort of whiplash from it. Because I'm going to talk about some things that, how do I put this? I'm still friends with my ex-husband. I have no ill will towards him whatsoever. I don't blame him for anything. I think that we both did the best that we could, both in our marriage and in ending our marriage. I think that we both did the best that we were capable of doing. But I went through some things with the divorce, and that was sort of the start of this ball rolling this past couple of years. He told me he wanted a divorce 2 days after our 16th wedding anniversary. And unfortunately, it also happened to align with the anniversary of my father's death. He didn't think about that, and I understand that. But he told me on the day that my father had died, 2 days after we got married, um, 2 days after our wedding, my father passed. And 2 days after our anniversary, my husband told me he wanted a divorce. I, as I told you guys before, packed everything up. I got the hell out of Dodge as quick as I could because I knew I couldn't stay there. I knew I was heading for some really bad times, and I didn't want to be there for it. I came to Seattle, and I moved in with one of my oldest friends. And with the plan of I was going to stay there for a little while, get on my feet, rebuild my life. That plan got sidetracked because not too terribly long after I got here in September. In fact, I left on my birthday that year. I left Florida on September 8th and got here on September 13th. And February 27th of last year, just about a year ago now, a little over a year ago, I was walking to work. I had parked my car several blocks away from work because that was the closest parking. We had recently had a pretty heavy winter storm, and it had snowed, freezing rain, the whole works. And I was crossing the street at a crosswalk, stepped on a patch of black ice, and I shattered my foot. I broke it. The second, third, and fourth metatarsals were broken. The third and fourth were the two most deeply affected, but the third metatarsal was shattered. And when I mean shattered, I mean splintered into a bunch of different pieces. I saw the scans, and it was kind of scary looking. I somehow managed to get myself out of the crosswalk and on my feet before the light changed because I was really worried about Seattle drivers running me over. And then I walked the remaining block and a half to work. And my boss immediately took me to the hospital and stayed with me the whole time. But I ended up having to have this surgery, and I was out of work for about 2 months. And I lost 2 months worth of income. Now I have a temporary disability through work, but that was a pain in the ass to get. I had to jump through every hoop. It took forever to finally get that. When I finally did get it, they shorted me. Nothing that can be done about that, apparently. So I had a huge financial setback. Additionally, and I've talked about this before, the first like 4 or 5 months that I was here were real bad. My emotional state was in a free fall. And I had started seeing my therapist in January, and then in February, I broke my foot. I spent 2 months out of work and laid up. The debt was mounting up. My credit cards were getting full, even more so than from the divorce debt. I was doing everything I could to keep myself afloat, but that set me back financially. And so I ended up staying with my friend for a year, and that was never the plan. I got a call from my ex. Now, the divorce took an unnaturally long time. It was a pain in the ass. It took over a year to finally get the divorce finalized. So we were still married at the time, but we were very much separated and divorcing. And I got a call from my ex that Domino had cancer and there wasn't anything that they could do about it. And again, I work with the most amazing people. My boss flew me back to Florida so that I could go back and see Domino. I spent a week staying with my ex and his then boyfriend and his then boyfriend's boyfriend. They were all living together. Um, just so that I could spend time with Domino before she left. And then I came back to Seattle. Now, I was still limping at this point. I wasn't fully healed. I was back to work. I had been for a while. But the surgery was a big deal, and I was in a lot of pain still. Um, I stayed for a week. I came back to Seattle. And then a few days later, I got the call that she was gone. And I think you guys, if you have watched some of the videos on my channel, you've probably gotten an idea of how very attached I was to Domino. Um, I've never had that many friends in my life. Between the social anxiety and the raging unchecked ADHD that I didn't know I had, I really had a hard time opening up to people. And keeping people in my life after I opened up to them was also a challenge. And Domino was the best friend I think I've ever had. It wasn't terribly long after we adopted her that I stopped thinking of her as my pet and started thinking of her as my daughter. Domino was the smartest animal I have ever met in my life. She was a border collie and pointer mix. She had the brains of a border collie and the personality of a pointer. She was amazing. And anybody who ever met Domino, my ex husband would vouch for this. She could hold conversations. You could actually have conversations with her. She taught us how she said yes and how she said no. And she would do very specific little kind of dances to answer a question, a yes or no question. And she could understand everything that we said to her. It was surreal. Her vocabulary was beyond unbelievable. And after a certain point, I stopped thinking of her as a dog. That was just Domino. That was my baby. When I left Florida, I made the decision to leave her with my ex. And that was the most painful thing I have ever had to decide. But I knew that I was about to fall down a really deep, deep emotional hole, and that I was going to barely be able to take care of myself. And I thought, there's no way that I can take her from the life that she has here. This is her world. She was a rescue, and we gave her this home, and we built this life for her, and that was her life, and I couldn't take that from her. And so when she died, I had to go through that loss a second time. And that hit me really hard. And then not too long after Domino passed, my roommate's dog passed. And I had gotten really close to him. So that hurt. I started my job at the accounting firm, and the imposter syndrome came roaring back to life with that one. I thought, what the fuck am I doing working in an accounting firm? I am the worst at math. I don't understand half the terms that I use at work to this day, I feel like. So that was immensely stressful. My therapist diagnosed me with the social anxiety disorder and the generalized anxiety and the PTSD. And we started working through all of that. I got this apartment that I love. I am paying through the fucking nose for this apartment that I love. Because Seattle is extraordinarily expensive. So even though my boss pays me really well, I make more money than I've ever made at any job in my life. I'm kind of squeaking by right now. Between all of the debt that I've accumulated and my very expensive apartment, I got rid of my car because I thought that that would save me some money. I wouldn't have to pay for gas. I wouldn't have to pay for insurance. I wouldn't have to pay $175 a month to my building just to get a parking space in the garage. I was doing everything I could to cut costs and save money and try to build myself back up again. And I'm slowly but surely making progress. But fuck, it has been hard. Now I'm going through tax season. And I missed last year's tax season. So I feel like I'm behind the curve there. And I'm lonely. I have really amazing friends, one of whom lives here in Seattle. I have my awesome coworkers. And then I have a group of people that I truly love that are scattered all over the fucking world. So I don't get to spend a lot of time with other people. Most of my time is spent in this apartment, in this room. And so things have just really been a struggle for the past couple of years. I have been through a hell of a lot. And that's on top of everything that I've gone through in my life prior. The abusive ex that parked a car on my foot that necessitated me having to have major reconstructive surgery on the other foot. So now both of my feet are made of metal. I figured 2 more limbs and I'll be Iron Man. I have dealt with some seriously traumatic things in my life. I spent a period of time where I was homeless. I had a close family member accuse me of something that I didn't do, but it was a really ugly accusation that stuck for a few years before that person finally recanted. And during that period, I didn't feel like I had a family. I've been through a lot, and I'm tired. I'm exhausted. And it just gets harder and harder to bounce back every time something happens. And I think that's where a lot of this is coming from. this diagnosis is not a bad thing. It's just another thing that I have to deal with. This apartment is not a bad thing. I love my apartment. Yeah, I really am paying way more money for it than I'm comfortable with. But that's Seattle. I live in the city, and so the fact that I can afford an apartment that has in-unit washer and dryer, and I'm 4.5 blocks from work, I don't need a car. These are advantages. These are good things. But the good things take a lot out of me too. Because remember, everything's harder with ADHD and anxiety and PTSD. And I think it's just catching up to me. Because I'm not bouncing back. I told my therapist in session today. I told him that it's like I've been running on fumes in my gas tank for so long that now all of the fumes are gone, and the only thing that's keeping me moving is inertia. And eventually that's going to run out, and I'm going to come to a complete and full stop, and I won't be able to start up again. That's what it feels like. And so I don't mean for these videos to be me whining about, oh, how hard my life is all the time. There's a lot of good sides to this too. But right now, just the basic act of living is taking more than I can give it. My therapist asked me what a break would look like for me. And I said, honestly, a 3-month coma. That's how tired I am. If I could just shut my brain off and not have to deal with anything for 3 months, then maybe I could recharge some. I'm going to be fine. I have been through worse than this. I have been through much harder than this. And I have always survived. I will be fine. But knowing that I'm going to come out of the other side of this very long and difficult tunnel does not make the tunnel any shorter or easier to travel. And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm just exhausted. And I really could use that 3-month coma. Hell, maybe I'd finally be caught up in sleep. I don't know. That's where I'm at. So these videos are not always going to be mopey, depressive me. But one of the things that I have learned in therapy is that I have been through some very, very extremely difficult things. And it is okay to say, I'm having a hard time coping. Never been very good at accepting help from other people or admitting weakness. It's like I've always felt that I was not as good as everybody else in the room, so I had to try extra hard. And I couldn't say, I can't do this. I had to prove that I could to make myself feel worthwhile. And I don't want to do that to myself anymore. That's toxic. I've listened to way too many negative messages, and I have internalized them, and I have absorbed them, and I have made them become a part of my self-belief system. And I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm exhausted. I'm out of steam. I'm tired. I'm struggling. I need help. I need medication. I need to find a medical provider that's willing to fucking accept me as a patient and write me a damn prescription. We're on 9 rejections now, by the way. In the midst of tax season, I've been trying to find somebody, and everybody I have reached out to has said, I'm sorry, we're full. And I mean, everybody has been really nice, and I'm sorry, we're full, but here's a couple of other recommendations I can make that you might reach out to. That's how I'm up to 9. There is a widespread shortage of ADHD medication. There is a widespread shortage of mental health providers. More people, more adults, many of them older adults, middle aged, senior adults, are being diagnosed with ADHD than ever before. And no, that does not mean that ADHD is on the rise. It means that for too long, people were only looking at children and treating ADHD like it was a childhood disease, like it was a disorder that only affected kids. And yes, some people do literally grow out of it. A lot of people don't. And those people, like me, that somehow got through life without ever being diagnosed because they were overachieving or people pleasing or desperately grinding their way to some modicum of success, those people got overlooked. And because we're having conversations about mental health, and because people are being more open and sharing their own experiences because of the pandemic and because of all of the insane crap happening in the world today, a lot more people are being diagnosed. The same number of people today have ADHD as yesterday, or the day before, or the day before that, or the year before that, or the decade before that. But we now know what to look for in a way that we haven't before. And people are becoming more aware. Because, like me, a lot of people don't really understand what ADHD actually is until they hear someone else's experiences and they think, that feels familiar. So, TikTok and YouTube are definitely driving people to seek medical evaluation. And I think that's fantastic. But it's making it hard to find a provider. And even when I find a provider, there's no guarantee I'll be able to find a pharmacy that has medication. Our society really fails people that are neurodivergent. And that's making this whole process a lot harder than it has to be. And I'm frustrated because I feel like I've said before, it's like I've been playing life on hard mode this whole time. Now that I know I'm on fucking hard mode and I know that there's a way to turn hard mode off, I would like to turn hard mode off now. But that necessitates being able to find a provider and get a prescription and then be able to fill that prescription. And I don't know when that's going to happen. So I'm basically raw dogging this shit at this point. And I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Lack of sleep is aggravating my expression of ADHD. My memory is worse because I don't get enough sleep. My focus is worse because I don't get enough sleep. I don't get enough sleep because of the ADHD, because it's causing my insomnia. It's a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle that I can't seem to break out of. I'm doing things to try to take care of myself. I'm working with my therapist. It is helping. It is helping. research, understanding myself, understanding why my brain works the way that it does, recognizing that all the weird things that I do that I thought were just me being weird isn't me being weird. It's my brain is just programmed differently. Lots of people feel the same way that I do. Lots of people's brains work like mine works. That's a revelation. I am going to get through this. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to come out the other side in a better place than I've ever been in my life. And I know that. But I'm exhausted. And it's so funny. I'm not doing all the things that I constantly do right now. I don't think I've even really been popping that much in this video. It's because I've had so much caffeine today, trying to keep myself functional. I have had 2 energy drinks, 3 extra strength 5-hour energy shots, and 3 cups of coffee. And I'm about to make my evening coffee, my bedtime coffee. So I can sort of manage this and treat this and deal with it without the support of a psychiatrist or a prescription. I know I'm going to be okay, but I'm exhausted. So that's it. That's the video. I'm exhausted. The title of this video will be Exhaustion. Because that's what's on my mind right now. That's what's going on. I'm just exhausted. But as I've seen over the course of these past several videos of me talking about this subject, that's today. Tomorrow I might be bouncing off the walls. Who knows? It's like a wheel of mystery. Spin it and see where my moods land. Oh, it's enough to make me crazy. I'm going to try to sleep because I'm exhausted. Bye, guys.